Okay, Bitcoin's finally done the thing I mentioned in my last video, which I did say at the very end. So if you didn't stick around to the end, then I'm very sorry you didn't get the correct information. However, that's only one distribution I mentioned in my last video, and that's an SFP, which swept this high. Okay, this supply chain failed. However, this is still a distribution, so you just came high into the distribution, right? So then I was like, okay, that's probably a really good short, and that's all just liquidity. So yeah, I didn't make a video for the continuation. I was a bit busy. Sorry about that. But that's fine. At the end of the day, I mean, you shouldn't have to rely on me on how to enter your trades. You just get the TA from me, which so far has been quite consistent. So consider subscribing because this is my track record, called pretty much every high and low and continuation, etc. So what's Bitcoin going to do now? Well, Bitcoin now is coming down to its accumulative zone, which it accumulated right at the start of August, which we caught that, hit the inducement order block. However, now, I think now that you swept all this liquidity and that you distributed and you SFP'd your structural high, well, your target now is just the low. There is this idea that when you hit the zone, you're probably going to have a local bounce. Ideally not, because in the bear market, normally your dumps are very fast and pretty rough. So, ideally we continue just keep going lower, but we'll see. If it gives us the opportunity to get into more trades as it comes up, then that's a good thing for us. But I'm no longer bearish. I was bullish for the majority of August since it started to potentially sweep these highs to come to this at the minimum. But once we distributed, that changed. What else is there? Is there really anything else for us? This entire zone, I mean, it's just a big zone. It's kind of useless to us. Once we're down here, because it's a bear market and bear market's normally quick, I don't really expect the bounce from here. I think to range during August would be a little bit weird. It wouldn't be typical seasonality wise. They hit the zone and then re-range up here. It doesn't really make sense. Maybe like a local, maybe like a little flip zone. Maybe something like this. I think this is more likely than seeing, let's say we do come down straight away and then you re-ranged. I mean, we've already re-ranged throughout this range. We absorbed at the highs. If you open interest up, that's just that. Yeah, that's just absorption, right? Lower and higher. That's absorption. So as we know, smart money is taking in everyone who was buying at the top. They were getting in shorts from them, hence why the difference there. Okay, so now that we know that they're in a lovely big short position, and then they redistributed here, I think that tells you everything you really need to know, really. That, well, the target's down, right? They probably already TP'd from this accumulation here. Like I was saying, this is a cumulative zone, so it's probably a good zone, but that was on depending on if July was going to come down to that. Now that it's August, you can't rely on the same zone because the people who accumulated and bought here, well, they probably TP'd all along here. Hence why you've seen it be so choppy, by the way, because if you come up all the way up and they start TPing aggressively, come back up, start TPing aggressively, come back up, start TPing aggressively. It's this repeated cycle. Hence why bear markets are normally very choppy, because anyone who does buy the lows and bring price up, well, they're aggressively TPing as price comes up. That's why you never see these really big sharp moves on at the very start of moves. So that's typically what normally happens. So hopefully you got something out of that. But apart from that, technically speaking, if we're going on technicalities, this range is still valid if you deviate this low and maintain within the 125%, which is 55,453. The range is still valid until this gets swept with a close, ideally on like the 4-hourly time frame, in my opinion. Apart from that, just keep trading. This can definitely turn into accumulation, but we will see about that. Where did August start? August started around here, right? Okay, cool. Let's see what the percent drop would be. Oh my god. What would the percent drop would be? 11%. Yeah, August is normally like a 20% month, and I don't really think this range should last any longer than it has lasted. But just in case it to deviate the low, just be aware that this would be a Model 1 accumulation, so you can start looking for scalp longs, mid-time frame longs, maybe high-time frame longs, depending on the structure it gives you. But I don't think that's likely. I think more likely it's going to happen that you're going to drop down to around the 50Ks. And then you can just use your high-time frame targets, like whatever strategy you use, fibs, etc. Anything really works. On high-time frame is very easy. Anything works. You can use any strategy that you really want to aggressively TP on your shorts. Apart from that, just wait for a range, try to get shorts on the way down. I don't think there's really any other game plan to play. And I mean, we'll see what price gives. If price gives anything crazy, I'll make a new video and we can trade that. Apart from that, oh wait, I didn't put a dot. I'm gonna put a red dot. I don't. Maybe we get a local bounce, but I don't really care if it looks like I was wrong for a little bit. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, we get a red dot. I'm bearish as fuck. So here's my track record. Again, why you should consider subscribing.